I am pressed to speak out on a few of things, but mostly to do with unity, disunity, disruption, etc., and the problem with the fact that Irish people don't seem to be able to get along and cooperate or whatever. There is three protests coming up that I would like to speak favorably on, and there's one that I think is somewhat ill-advised, to say the least. For the past number of months, I have been not very optimistic about the purpose and the usefulness of these mass gatherings in Dublin, Cork, Limerick, elsewhere. I feel that they are being used by some people just to promote their own careers and get votes and whatever. And as bad and all as that may be, even worse, many speakers that should have been given a voice to speak were not allowed to speak. Going back to the big one in Dublin there some months back, John Malloy, for example, had organised a protest with a purpose in the Phoenix Park. He was hoping to get a crowd and hand deliver a letter of protest into ours and Uachtaráin. It had a purpose, it had a focus, and it was all well and good. Two things went against it. Unfortunately, the Pope died a few days before this event, so the president was not going to be in his residence when the letter was handed in. Not much we could have done about that, really. Even worse, somebody else decided to organize what turned out to be a much larger protest, and 30,000 to 40,000 people showed up. And it really did not achieve anything at all, in my opinion, aside from promoting the, uh, as I said, the careers of some. That was okay. At least it cheered up the people and gave them some hope and optimism. And the hope was that they would grow upon this enthusiasm, and who knows where it would lead. But that was that day anyway. It was followed up by one in Cork, somewhat similar. And then there was also one in Limerick, much smaller crowds. All these protests are dragging people from all over the country and using up their resources, their time, their money, their energy, their passion, whatever. Protests should be just kept to the local area. So you go down to your local area, put in your appearance, try to influence and change the minds and opinions of the people living in that area, your neighbors, etc. And it will actually achieve something beneficial and concrete. I also believe, of course, that these protests should not be just going down to the town square. They should actually go by the offices of the elected officials to bring the message quite clearly to them that the neighbours, their voters, actually mean business, and we are demanding that we should be heard. Now, having said all that, there are three protests coming up here in the next few days that most certainly are an exception to this rule. The first one is a protest that has sprung up basically overnight in reaction to what many would consider an outrage that people of a different faith hostile to Christianity are holding a protest or march beginning at what to some is the most symbolic building in this country, Ireland, that is, the GPO, and then they're going to march off someplace else. So this protest, uh, I have no idea who's organizing this protest because it's a grassroots protest and maybe nobody's organizing it, but there's going to be a protest anyway. I would urge everybody that is within a relatively reasonable distance of Dublin to try to attend this protest, which is going on at 2:30 p.m. on July the 4th. Even if the other people don't show up in great numbers, it doesn't matter. Look upon it then as an opportunity to get to meet some other people of like mind and build some personal relationship between everybody involved. It's a win win. I also would consider this as a litmus test. All these so called leaders that have been screaming, speeching, orating, reading off their phone, reading notes, but putting themselves out there as leaders. This is your chance now to go down there and stand on the front line. If those people don't show up to this event, which is a total disgrace in Ireland, to have even it being considered to be allowed, well, then you should just pack your suitcase and exit stage left because you are not material that should be leadership at all. And see you later. And that is my take on that protest. Now, the next protest is a fantastic protest. It is the March for the Right to Life and that issue. These people are idealists, they're Christians, and those that may not be Christians, they are decent people who understand that the taking of life at any form is an absolute outrage. And to think that Ireland is undergoing such death to little children is an abomination. Even an atheist would is shocked at that. I would hope that everybody should go to that as well. Now, the next protest is one that has been long planned for something like 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, maybe even 2 months ago when I first heard about it. Again, this fellow from Donegal, John Malloy, he has decided that he's going to do a camp in outside Leinster House over one night, which is 2 days, one night. It's going to be July the 16th into the 17th. The objective is very simply to highlight the plight of the 16,000 homeless people in Ireland that are getting absolutely zero assistance whatsoever, while everybody else from God only knows where is put up in five-star hotels. I see fellows back there in Ireland now with their little camera. They'll walk into hostels and little restaurants and hotels, and they will see these people eating the finest of food. And then they'll walk out the door and they'll see an Irish fellow sitting on the sidewalk with his cup out, begging for a bite to eat. That is the focus of John Malloy's march. It is to be highly commended, in my opinion. And this man, John Malloy, has broken his back, as far as I can see and as far as I know, to try to get a crowd, any crowd at all, to go down and focus and actually do something, again, concrete, and see where it goes from there. And that is a march that I would highly recommend people going a little bit extra above and beyond to assist him in that venture. Now, unfortunately, the exact same thing has happened to this march organized by John Malloy that actually happened to the last endeavor undertaken by John Malloy as well. Sure enough, somebody has organized a clone basically of his plan. This lady has decided to have a march on July the 8th, but Tuesday, I think it is, whatever day it is. It doesn't make any difference what day. It's not a Saturday. It's not the day that the foreign people of the other religion are gathering. It's not any day at all. It's just, I don't know why that day was picked. But anyway, that day was picked. Meet at the GPO, march to the door, and then, of course, have an absolutely absurd request, which has zero chance of actually happening, and that is to allow 100 nationalists to enter the Dáil to make speeches. In all my life, I have never heard anything so preposterous and so unlikely to achieve anything at all. Now, I would ask this lady to reconsider, and as a lot of our people say on Facebook, give her head a wobble, whatever that means. And instead, why not just do what she's always saying and what all the others are saying as well? Why don't we unite? Well, this is the chance for her to unite with John Malloy and have a focused protest on July the 16th into the 17th. And that is my common sense view of this situation. Thank you very much for watching.